It sounds like Shark Tank was like 3 years later. Where was your business when you decided to enter whatever you needed to do to try and enter the Shark Tank? And so where was your business at the time, and why did you ultimately go for it?
So in 2015, and I'm a CPA, I don't mind talking numbers. If you look up Inc. Magazine, you can see our numbers. There's a few things that are confidential, but I like sharing these just to educate, people and other entrepreneurs and just kind of share the knowledge. We did about 400,000 that year in 2015. So that was a decent year. And we had literally our first break-even month or slightly profitable. So when we went on to Shark Tank, we could say we were profitable. But it was a long road to that point. We, had this amazing fold-up rack, and we knew it was great because every time we go to a trade show, everyone would say, "Wow, that's that was amazing! I love it! I want one." Well, then buy one, and no one's going to drop $1,200 at a fitness show or an event, a fitness event. So we were just still thinking it was a good idea, but again, the cash was going out and it wasn't coming in. So it was a trying time, but that was kind of how we were doing right in 2015.
Yeah, I guess at this time, Brian, you mentioned you were the numbers guy. What were your responsibilities? And Eric, you as well. How were your roles different?
Yeah, I think, Brian is always kind of focused on the numbers and projections and, helping everybody kind of see a much bigger picture, dreaming big. And then, I'm focused kind of on the other side on operations, helping in new product development, some of the ideas, and so we complement each other well in that regard. And I think if we back up just a minute too regarding Shark Tank, I think it's kind of neat to say that it really wasn't planned. The Shark Tank thing, it just it came up, and I was watching the show one night, and just for the heck of it was curious, like, how do these people get on the show? So I did a quick Google search and learned that there was open castings in different parts of the country. And I noticed that there was going to be one in Miami, and it was going to happen a day or two before Brian and I were scheduled to be down in Miami to exhibit at Wadapalooza. So I actually emailed Brian and said, "Hey, check this out. This is kind of cool." And I think I called him, and I think he hung up on me, and then he called me back, and he's like, "You're not going to believe this, but I just rebooked our plane tickets because I think we should probably check that out." And the ticket agent asked why he wanted to rebook our tickets, so we told him, and the individual was such a fan of the show, they didn't even charge us to change our tickets. It was just kind of one of the many serendipitous moments that we've experienced through the years.
That's awesome. All right, so you ended up getting a deal. We all know that. But can you give us a quick summary of how it actually went?
I want to take one step back there, too, is when we showed up to Shark Tank, the first thing they do is give you a per diem. And it was like, I don't know, $70 a day for food. And I think that's like the first time we had that much cash available to us. And we actually went out to dinner. We're like, wow, we can afford to go out to dinner now. Because, I think every athlete struggles with the business was so difficult. We were just so close to running out of cash. We were watching every penny, almost, eating ramen noodles. And every athlete always wonders like, their bodies tell them to quit, but the brain says no. And we actually, Eric and I talked about shutting down the business. It was so tight. It was so thin. Like, we don't know, but we also believed in it. We believed in ourselves, and we're like, we got to push through this. We got to make it happen. So getting to Shark Tank, getting that $70 per diem, getting a good meal, and then, everything just kind of launched from there. So we were right at that point where it was like, what are we going to do? So it was a great launching pad. Eric, you can answer the question that I avoided.
Yeah, maybe you want to repeat the question again, Jay.
Yeah, I can do that. But yeah, Brian, I can imagine going 3 years or so and you finally make a monthly profit, and it's not like you're dealing with something that's cheap to create or, I'm sure that was a lot of stress that you had to deal with. And I'm guessing if this didn't work out, you might have actually closed the shop. But actually, real quick, while we're here, would you say the most difficult thing during these few years was introducing a new product in the home gym space, or was the home gym population just not quite there yet? or a combination of the few? Does that make sense?
I think honestly the biggest challenge was that we needed to be something that nobody else was yet. It's one thing to build something on commodity and, make that a go, maybe. But I think if you're able to really differentiate yourselves in one way, shape, or form, whether that is creative products, intellectual property, or whatever it is, it's super important. And the hardest part was figuring out who we were. And, when the ideas came that we felt so good about, that was a breath of fresh air. We knew that we had something. Now we just had to get it to the masses.
All right, back to Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. So like I said, we all know you ended up getting a deal, but can you give us a quick summary of maybe just from that? I don't think you went straight into the tank. What was the whole experience like?
70,000 people apply. You show up, you stand in a line. The line was almost 800 people long that day in Miami. And there's a guy up there just telling us, all right, here's what we're going to do. There's 5 producers and 5 different booths. You got 1 minute. You go in there, give it your all, lay it on the table, and then leave. You're never going to hear from us again. It's like, we can't get back to all of you. He goes, we'll call you. Don't call us. He's like, if somebody offers you $1 million for your business, if it's the right deal, take it. Don't say you're waiting on a call from Shark Tank because we're not going to call you. So they were very honest up front. It was kind of fun. So you walk in there, if you think about it, I mean, it's TV. You got to be animated. Like we joked, we both slammed Red Bulls. We went in there and you just laid on the table for a minute. And the guy was like, all right, cool. And he made a little check mark in the top corner. And 3 days later, we heard back from him. And then we went from all of those people to a group of 750 that were invited to meet with them weekly. And eventually they fly 150 people out, of which only 120 air. 60 get a deal, and about half of those close, about 30 close. So we were 1 out of 30 out of the 70-some thousand that applied. But yeah, Eric, if you want to talk about the on-set experience, it was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I mean, the on-set was probably one of the most intimidating things we've ever done. I mean, first of all, they call it Shark Tank for a reason, and I don't think television can accurately portray what you're actually going through when you step foot out on that rug. The sharks don't meet you beforehand. I mean, the only thing they know when you walk out is your first name. And you hear over the loudspeaker in this huge studio to begin. Well, we didn't hear that the first time. So there was a long, awkward pause, 15 feet from these sharks, and they told us to begin again, but obviously much louder. And when we finished our pitch, that's when the feeding frenzy really happens, because on television it sounds so cut and dry and organized, but they're all mic'd up separately, right? So that's all edited. It really is a Shark Tank. Everybody's yelling at you at the same time. They want their answers. They don't want to miss out on a deal if they indeed are a good fit. So it was a wild experience.
I watched the video. It's like 7 minutes. How long were you actually in there?
We were on...
It was 50 minutes.
Yeah, just under an hour.
50 minutes. Was there anything that they asked? Or can you give us an example of something that you had to answer, but they didn't air?
Yeah, towards the end. So, we didn't want to just take a deal, and we decided, hey, we want to make sure the shark is bringing us value, not just, we're helping them out. So we decided we'd push back a little bit. Well, we were sitting at that point where we just had one shark in, and we're like, let's still ask the question. So Eric asked Mr. Wonderful, what are you gonna do for us? And he gave an answer. But now we had just been at another show where we met a guy who got a deal with Damon, and we kind of learned a little bit about the way he works, the way he thinks. And Damon was asking, like, well, how many are you selling at shows? And that's not our model. We're more direct to consumer online, not shows. We don't do well at shows. So then after we asked Kevin that question, we see Damon reaching over to Kevin, and I'm like, uh-oh. And then Eric started asking another question. I'm like, dude, let's not push our luck. Let's take the deal. So before Kevin had a word to say, we're like, wait, we'll take it. And so it was kind of this back and forth in this chess game. And I got so excited, I stepped off because we had like little gifts if we're going to get a deal with a shark. So I stepped off the carpet, and they're like, wait, get back on your mark. So they only cut rolling twice. That was one of the times. And they're like, hey, let's just reshoot that finish. Well, the way it happened was so dynamic. I don't know if they could cut it correctly, so they just said, "Let's reshoot it." Hey, we'll give you this video. Okay, yeah, we'll take it. It was much less exciting on TV, believe it or not. In person, it was it was a roller coaster.
It was awesome in person.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's wild that they had you react. It seemed like there was some hesitancy because of the price. Was there any other key reasons that some of the others decided not to invest?
Yeah. You think you prepare for everything when you're going in there. Eric and I watched every single episode that had been until that season. And I wrote down over, 80 questions that they'd ask, and we practiced them. Hey, I'll take finance and sales. You do marketing and you do operations. So we knew who was going to answer it. And we were dialed. But then they're like, stud finder, huh? So how long does it take to set this thing up?
Right.
2 minutes? Like, are you nuts? Like, none of Lori was the only one who used a stud finder. They talked about stud finders for 15 minutes. I'm like, guys, installation's not a problem. But they made it into this huge deal. And, Mark Cuban's like, I'm not into that. You need a big, strong wall to hold this weight. Like,
right.
Mark, a wall holds a freaking house up. This is what we're putting on. There's nothing. So it went down a tangent. I think they got a little scared. So I think there was other stuff and there was a joke about a stud finder on TV anyway, but there was a lot more behind the scenes.
Right. I did see that. And it seemed like one of the primary reasons Kevin invested was because he was going through the home gym process, the build at that time for his lake house or something like that. So that's interesting how it worked out, that it just timing seemed to happen. Yep. Timing happened right. And then I watch quite a bit of Shark Tank, and usually when I'm watching it or after I watch an episode, I look up to see, like, did the deal actually go through? And you find out that a lot of the deals, like you mentioned earlier, don't go through. Could you guys explain what the process is like after that? Because it seems like you have a deal, but there's a chance that it might not go through. Yeah,
I think, if you think of just business in general and any sort of an investment in business, anybody's going to do proper due diligence, right? So it's not anything out of the ordinary. They're writing checks. It's real money. It's our company. It's real equity. Everybody wants to make sure that, it is actually going to be mutually beneficial. So, every situation is different, every company. And I think that's why some don't close, right? Either the sharks see something they don't like, or the entrepreneur maybe just decides, hey, this isn't good for us. But as we went into due diligence with Kevin and his small team, we realized that there was a benefit there. And we wanted to close the deal. Now, that didn't stop us from negotiating. We did negotiate a better deal. But I think, everybody's happy with that. So it was just a great story.
Cool. And how has that partnership worked over the years? Do you still talk to him on a regular basis, or has that kind of fizzled out?
No, it's been awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been wonderful. Kevin is, going into Shark Tank, he probably would not have been our first pick. Knowing what we know now, it definitely worked out in our favor, and we ended up with the best option in front of us. And, every year for many years until COVID came, we'd meet up with all of his companies, his portfolio companies in Miami, and have a summit. And he's just been a great help, but, stays out of the way. He invested in a company that he believed in, and he trusts us to run it, stays out of the way, and he's there to support us if we need him.
We've made some big decisions since then and said, hey, we put a bunch of money into this new project. If you want to be a part of it, we'll leave it in the main company. If not, we'll put it in our parent company and you're out of it, because I trust you guys. I want to be a part of whatever you're doing. Just leave it. I trust you. Go. That's it.
I'm sure it was a good investment for him. So I'm sure he's probably, he trusts you guys. Yep. All right. Anything else you want to add to the Shark Tank story that we didn't cover?
No, I think if anyone out there is considering going through the exercise, I would encourage them to do it, because it gets you organized. At one point, we sent documents probably 5-6 inches thick in due diligence, and just even before, right out of the gate. So it's a great way to just get all your ducks in a row. And then after that too, just the whole experience has been phenomenal, and the contacts we've made, and it's invaluable. So I'd encourage anyone to at least go through the process, even if they don't get on it.
Awesome.